Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. I have Aya. She is a holistic health coach, empowerment mentor, and certified bioenergetics practitioner, as well as an author and mother to two vibrant daughters. Through her own experiences balancing ambitious dreams with the demands of motherhood, Aya found her calling in helping other mothers discover serenity, seamless flow, and boundless freedom. Her approach centers on reconnecting women with the enduring wisdom of Mother Earth and aligning with their natural rhythms. Aya, thank you so much for joining me today. Good morning to you.
Hey, Gina, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to you because we were just discussing about the incredible feeling that nature gives us where we no longer want to do the things that we used to do, whether it's drinking or other habits or behaviors that didn't really serve us too much. And just discovering who we are by being out in the elements is an incredible feeling because that's what I experienced in my recovery. And I really, really appreciate nature. So, if you could just tell us more about your journey into becoming an empowerment mentor and holistic health coach and what inspired you to go ahead and take this path.
Yeah, actually, in a lot of ways, I would say that nature kind of saved me. It put me back on the right track. Um, I've been lucky enough to grow up in really close proximity with nature. I was always outdoors as a child. We lived in a house that was right next to a forest. I just had this really deep connection with nature, but I was never like rationally aware of it because that was so natural to me, right? Um, and then I was about 25. I moved to a big city, which was always a big dream of mine. I got offered a job and it seemed like such a wonderful opportunity. Like you don't say no to that. So I just went there. And it was nothing like I expected. I found the job very stressful. I suddenly started getting all these health issues that I've never experienced before. I started losing a lot of weight. Um, the food didn't enter right. I just wasn't feeling well. I would cry every day on the way to work, and I didn't even like, I had no idea why. I just knew something was happening to me. Um, and yeah, then I had couldn't wait for a weekend to go out for a few drinks and just unwind and forget about everything and then start a whole new cycle again on Monday, which I dreaded on Saturday already. Um, so yeah, and then suddenly I started getting this weird urges, let's say, to take my shoes off whenever I saw a patch of grass somewhere or just go lie in the park. And I knew nothing about the concept of grounding back then and how healing, having physical contact with the earth actually is for you and how it changes your whole biochemistry in the body and it actually helps you heal. Um, I just did those things sort of instinctively to a point. Like at first I resisted it because I mean that's such a weird thing to do, right? Especially in a big city, you just don't go lying around on patches of grass. Um, but I noticed how much better it helped me feel. And at that point, I also said, okay, now either I'm getting another apartment, which allows me to actually see the sky above me, or I'm getting out of here because I can't take it anymore. Because the only thing I had the view of before was the building in front of me.
Oh
I
no.
can't. So with my then partner, we then moved to a new apartment. And then that's when things really started changing because I got a rooftop terrace and I had a few plants, even though they were potted. Like I suddenly had this bit of contact with nature again. Um, and it sort of, I remember one of those moments on the terrace was like, oh my God, looking at the sky, like I feel like myself again, not even knowing exactly what that meant, but sort of rediscovering this spark that I remembered from way back when I still like life was still nice and now it wasn't. And then it helped me realize that I want to move back home. I want to come closer to nature again. And so that's what I did really within a few months. I quit my job. I moved back home. I changed absolutely everything in my life. Um, and yeah, and now here I am. And then I actually started like discovering these things from the scientific perspective as well. Hence, then I did the health coach training and the bioenergetics practitioner, because I wanted to know what's actually going on inside the body when you have this contact with nature. And then going to a women's circle once, like I had this whole breakthrough when the facilitator said, something along the lines like, we're not actually supposed to function on consistent energy all the time because we're all cyclical. And especially as women, all the more so, right? Because we also have our menstrual cycles. And I was like, oh my God, I'm cyclical. I don't have to be like this super overperforming, exhausted human all the time. I get to rest and wind down and, and it was such a huge relief for me. And that was actually when I started like diving deeper into the cycles as well, and then bringing it all together as one, this whole holistic approach that I have right now.
That's amazing. Yes, I live in San Jose, so literally the downtown is not too long, like 5 minutes away. But yet also 5 minutes away is mountains behind me. So I don't ever go hardly to the city part anymore. I love the nature, and my husband and I, well, last year we did a lot of hiking and I felt like the best. And he even like had the staff, this big stick, the actual stick.
Mm-hmm.
And he would use
Mm-hmm.
it. And I hear that if you have that stick, because your hand is touching it and it's touching the ground, it's energetically connecting to you and you benefit from it, apparently. That's what I heard anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that would depend on the material that the stick is made of. But
Yes.
yes, actually. And you can also get grounding shoes, for example, that have this little, like, it's like they put something in it so that the shoe sole actually like connects you to the energy of the ground, because we can't always walk around barefoot. Like I try to do that as much as I can, but where I'm from, it gets very, very cold in winter, so I like around barefoot this time of
Yeah.
year. So yeah.
Super cold over there, right? Yes. Oh, so the stick was actually just he found it out when we were hiking and it was perfect size. So it's not
Uh-huh.
store bought or anything. But you're right, because we have to wear shoes all the time. It's hard for us then to connect to the earth. And so whenever I go ahead and go hiking, I will take off my shoes and socks and sit down when I need a break, because sometimes we have these difficult hikes, and then just kind of like put our feet right inside the dirt and just breathe. And oh, it
Mm-hmm.
feels amazing. I love it. And that's what I did a lot when I was recovering from alcoholism, is I really wanted to be one with nature. And it's interesting that you brought up the whole cycles, because it's so true. Someone had asked, what is the best time for women to work out? And then an expert said, well, it really depends on the cycle of the woman. When her menstrual cycle is, that'll then determine what's the best time for them to work out or what day or what time of the month to go ahead and work out. And so it's very interesting. So, and you also emphasize the importance of reconnecting with Mother Earth. How do you guide individuals in establishing this connection? And why is it so vital for our well-being?
Well, like you mentioned, and like people very quickly discover, even if they're not like in that particular moment aware of it. Like we all have this experience that we feel so much better when we just get out and spend some time in nature. Like everything just falls away. And I was just talking to a friend of mine a few days, and she was like, you know what, you're right. Like as bad as the day seems, as hopeless as everything is, I just have to go for a 20-minute walk. And then I'm like, you know what? It's fine. We'll figure this out. And it's true. Like it centers you so much. So there's really not like there's so much science backing up everything that like I say and I try to do with people, but really I don't have to. We all have this knowing inside. Like that's the way that we're built. And if we just, the only trouble is that we very rarely listen to ourselves anymore. So what I like to do is to just encourage people to find the time to go outside and be in nature, because then everything just starts falling into place. And we often, like, that would be we've started perceiving it as some sort of a like luxury, and we almost won't allow ourselves, right, to go out and take that time for ourselves, even though we know it. Or if we do, we feel like we have to, I don't know, run I don't know how many miles to get it in as exercise. And like, it's, in my experience and in the experience of everyone I know, when you give yourself this chance to just go out when you feel stuck, you'll get unstuck within 15 minutes. Like everything will, and again, that's scientifically backed up actually, because I think I read that simply just walking will increase your creative capacities by like 80% or some crazy number. So even when I'm working, for example, and I feel that I'm not being productive, that I'm not really getting my best ideas through, I will just leave it. I'll go out for a walk, even if I can't, we can't always just jump into a forest right out. Like, but even if you go for like around your block and notice a few trees and the sky above you on the way, it already starts shifting things. And it actually, it's the thing, what it does, it brings you back to yourself. It helps you reconnect with who you really are, and then everything in your life just starts flowing again. And I know it sounds so simple, but it's true. Like, and that's the beauty of it, really. It's so very simple,
And it's free.
entirely free.
It's totally free. Now, you mentioned that human beings like are built to mimic nature. Can you elaborate on how understanding natural rhythms kind of influence our approach to health and life?
Yeah. Um, I always like to say that we are nature. Like we come, our bodies come from the nature, and when our souls are done with their trip here, that's where our bodies will return to nature. Oh, again, right? Our bodies will return to the earth. Um, and it's really helpful to understand that, because then by just looking out the window and observing what's going on around us, we can really tune into what is going on within us, and it helps guide our actions in a way that is most productive, the least stressful, the healthiest option for us. Like I said, we all have this knowing inside of us. And to a very great extent, this knowing actually comes from the earth and this connection that we have with it. And it very often really doesn't take much more than looking out of the window, because we all have this experience. Like you wake up on a beautiful sunny day, you jump out of bed, you're full of energy, and you just want to get the day started. Like you have this feeling of infinite potential and possibilities of all the wonderful things that you could do in a day. And then on the other hand, you wake up and it's dark and rainy outside and you don't really want to get out of bed. And then we feel guilty about it, and we beat ourselves up, and we still try to get ourselves into the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. And it's just like, and don't get me wrong, like I'm pro consistency. Like a lot of us just like, we're also built to be a little lazy as human beings. So like there is virtue in somehow pushing through the things sometimes when they're difficult for us. But very often we push too hard. And then what we end up doing is being counterproductive or even harming ourselves. So in terms of, if we say now, like if we're in the northern hemisphere, we're in the middle of winter right now, this is a time of rest in nature. And again, you don't like, you just have to look out the window. Nature is resting right now, right? Like the trees even drop their leaves. There are so many animals that just hibernate all through winter. And actually, we were pretty much built to hibernate through winter as well. It's just that the modern tempo of life doesn't allow us to do that anymore. But if you think historically, like what did our ancestors used to do when the sun went down? Well, they went to sleep, because what else are they going to do without light, right? And then they didn't really get up until the sun came up again, because again, there was nothing to do. And all that really didn't start changing that long ago, historically speaking. It's only been about 100 years, 100, like out of all, the whole human history, that light bulbs and clocks changed everything for us. Right now, we don't, nobody looks out the window anymore to know what time it is, or like how to, we just look at the time and then we run until we collapse, and then we repeat the cycle again. And then we never stop, because when it gets dark, we just turn on all the lights and all the screens and we keep going. But I actually read, there's this really nice book that's called Wintering, um, that even just before the Industrial Revolution, they would go to bed during the winter when the sun came down. And because it's not, those are then very many hours of sleep. Most of us can't just sleep for 14, 15 hours, even if it's dark outside. People would naturally wake up around like 4 a.m. And stay up for a little bit to like reflect or meditate or have some peaceful conversations with their loved ones, go to the bathroom, and then actually go back to sleep until the sun came up. So really get a lot of rest. But not only that, they also got this period during the night in the darkness to like go inside and be with themselves and reflect on their lives. And because it's really important to do that. And that's one thing that we hardly do anymore as well, because the tempo doesn't allow it, because it's hard to do that while watching Netflix. And yeah,
Yeah,
so that I
Netflix.
found that super fascinating. And actually, when they repeated the study now, and they just basically put people in that same environment with that much darkness without artificial lights, it's what actually started happening to them. Again, like it's natural for us. You would go to bed when it's dark, you would get some nice sleep, then you would get up, meditate, self-reflect, do some inner work, and then just rest again until you're ready to get up. So I found that super fascinating. And I was like, okay, we really are built to rest in the winter, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like resting right now. You know, normally during the summertime, I mean, it's bright and early, like we would be out and about doing something outside. But now that, it's winter, it's like, oh, have a nice fireplace, have a nice cup of chamomile tea, and just kind of wind down and then talk to your family. How's everybody doing? It's very it's a time to wind down and it feels so nice. So that's where I'm at. Like this evening, it's like, oh, it's so cozy. That's why I'm wearing my
Yeah.
jacket because it's a little chilly.
And it's not just like now we're talking winter, but it's what I like to talk about is actually energetic cycles, because then if we look all the other natural cycles, um, they share these similar energies, right? So now that we're in the middle of winter, that's the same energy as with the new moon, which was also actually at the time of this recording yesterday.
Oh, wow.
um, like it's also a dark time, a time for rest and a time for sort of setting the intentions to manifest our new beginnings, but it's not a time to take action yet. And the same thing happens with women's menstrual cycles. Like your bleeding phase is a phase of rest, right? And you don't have to, nobody needs to tell you that the first day of your period is really not the optimal day to take massive action and exercise. Like you don't want to do that. You
Mhm.
want to wind down and rest and, you know, go within more than go without. You're not really that sociable. You don't want to hang out with people. You just want to be nice and cozy. And so it's important to see this parallels with the cycles and and that helps you understand what's really going on with you, even if you don't allow yourself to like to hear that inner knowing, or if you look at your to-do list and you feel like you have way too much to do to rest. It still helps you know rationally that it would be the optimal time, the optimal thing for you to do at this time.
Yeah, because it's like a hustle and grind, hustle and grind. It's like the toxicity of modern fast-paced world. We're just always busy, busy, busy. And sometimes then people feel guilty to actually relax and rest. And they're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this instead. I have a list of things to do. I got to do this, I got to do that, do that. Especially as mothers, because you're a mom, you understand how it is sometimes. It gets a little bit hectic. What are some strategies or something that you actually recommend for coping when we have a list of things to do and we just want to go ahead and just take rest?
To take rest. That would
Ju-
be my advice. And I do like I'm let's say I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I understand what it's like to and I always have like a million projects at once going on. So I
Mhm.
understand what it's like to have an unmanageable to-do list. Um, and I also know very well what happens when we don't give ourselves the permission to rest, because we pretty much drive ourselves into the ground all the time
Mhm.
until like we crack and we get sick or whatever, and we're forced to take that rest that we've been refusing to give ourselves again, and then we just pick up the pace and we start all over again. So that's always my advice. When you feel that you need rest, and then take a really hard look at that to-do list and decide what your priorities are, because we always complain like we don't have enough time, and it's true, we like there's not enough hours in a day to get everything that's on our to-do lists done. But really, how many of those things are really important? Like, I get it, eventually that laundry is gonna have to get done because, but does it really have to be right now? Like, is that more important than your own well-being? Um, and how are you going to feel at the end of the day if like that laundry is still undone? You go, oh, well, tomorrow is another day. But if you have on at the expense of doing the laundry and a million other things that really could have waited, for example, have not taken the time for yourself to be like, we all have things that connect us to ourselves. For many of us, it's nature. It can be meditating. It can be working on an art project, cooking, like taking that time to really be with yours. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day. That's another thing, that we have all these routines and structures, and then we have to, and I'm big on my morning rituals. I just refuse to call it a routine, because when you turn it into routine, it gets rigid, and then you sort of are trapped in it again, because now I have to stick to these things that I do in the morning, and I have to first exercise, and then and no, it doesn't allow me to follow my natural flow. So I do like to get up early in the morning, and I usually start with a meditation because it helps me figure out what it is that I need and want today, and then I follow that, not some predetermined plan already, right, first thing in the morning, because that's what I'm going to follow for the rest of the day anyway. So that my advice is rest, and just really go within to see whether it's rest you need, or are you running away from something? Because very often we also have this, okay, now I need to rest. I'm so tired. I'm just gonna, throw myself on the couch and get some junky treat because I've deserved it, and watch some mindless telly because I just really need to unwind. And we end up harming ourselves, because it's not going to give us what we're actually after. It's not going to give us rest. It's just going to put us in this weird state where we get even more tangled into where we don't want to be.
Mhm.
Um, so yes.
Yes, totally. Yeah. The TV, especially 'cause sometimes whatever you're watching may not be the best thing for your mind is the news, and just movies that have a lot of violence. If you're trying to rest your mind, that may kind of cause a little bit of like your heart palpitating a little bit. At least for me
Yeah.
anyway. Whenever I watch those, I'm like, oh, I turn off, turn off, turn off. But my mom, so she is like the and she admits she is the hustle and grind, go, go, go. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I have a list of things to do. I'm busy. Finally, the other day, I was at her house, and then I had actually spent the night at her house to visit her. And then she told me, yeah, I'm going to go into my room and I'm just going to go ahead and relax and rest and everything. I was like, "Ugh. We're in a different world right now." It's like, but then she kept on saying it to me, like, "Oh yeah, don't mind me." And I'm like, "Mom," like I said, "Mom, this is a good thing. You don't have to justify why you're resting, okay, Mom? You're 70 something years old. You need to be in bed resting. Let me serve you. Do you need anything I can bring for you?" But it was nice to see her finally rest, because she was been so tense that she has had Bell's palsy and she's recovering now. But it's
Mhm.
like, hey, like you said, your body will actually shut down if you don't shut down first. Your body will shut down for you. And yeah, so always listen to your body, because it's going to tell you, hey, you need to slow down. And I was
Yeah.
sharing with somebody else, like even being at a desk all the time, in my business, and just doing whatever I need to do on the computer. I take time, I will step away, and then I will either do breathing, I will meditate, listen to something peaceful, and whatever. I just need to step away. And I feel so much better when I do, even stretching. And I also like the fact that you don't use the word routine, ritual. This is your sacred time. And then if you wake up and you're like, okay, I don't want to work out, don't work out. Maybe just stretch or just breathe and just slow down even more, maybe make your favorite smoothie for the morning time, or you make your favorite, it could be your pressed juice drink. That's what we've been doing lately, is those carrots and
Me too,
apples.
yeah,
And oh,
me
so good.
too.
And ginger. Oh, it's so good. And just do something that you enjoy. So yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So we're talking about winter, and then, of course, we're in December, the holiday season, everyone's rush, rush, rush. And then here comes New Year's. And we were discussing this before I hit record about how people always tend to put, like, I have to set this as my New Year's resolution goal. I need to do it for January 1st, right away. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, January 1st, when it comes to nature, is a completely arbitrary date. Like nature doesn't care about January 1st. Like it has nothing to do with anything. We made it up. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Um, there is an important turn coming up now when it comes to the natural cycles, but that's the winter solstice
Mhm.
on December 21st, or I think actually this year it's on the 22nd. And that's the longest night of the year, but then we turn back towards the light. So like that's the time when the days start getting longer again, and that we all always so look forward to in winter. Um, and that's actually, like I said, it's an important turn, but it's not really a whole new beginning yet. And then, like 10 days later, you have January 1st, and we all want to make these huge, important, action oriented changes in our lives. But really, we're still very deep in that darkness that we were talking about before. We're still meant to be resting. Like, yes, the day started getting longer, but the energetic shift isn't really big enough yet to give us the momentum that would like really carry us through to achieve all those big important, because that's another thing with new year's resolutions, like you said, they tend to be really big. Like we have now, it's January 1st and we're gonna uproot everything and change our lives completely. Right now I've never exercised, now I'm gonna start going to the gym every day, every morning. I'm gonna exercise like crazy, I'm gonna change my diet completely, I'm gonna like do all these work projects, and it's just too much. Like it's too much. And that's one thing, like on a completely mindset level, when you have too much on your plate, it's going to cause overwhelm, and that's going to lead you to inaction, and it's going to be completely counterproductive. But in terms of the natural cycles, you're going to wear yourself out. Like we're not there yet. And it's not going to, you'll actually sabotage your own chances of actually succeeding with those resolutions if you rush into them too fast on January 1st. But I will say this, it is a wonderful time right now to sort of look back, reflect on the year that's behind us, see what's worked for you, what didn't, what you perhaps wish you had done differently, what important things, but important in terms of like things that are really close to your heart, uh, were perhaps left undone this year, and you would like to change that in the following year. And then set intentions, like be mindful about it. Think about your priorities and your top values and how you would like to conduct your life in the coming year. And then just start turning towards that, even if just energetically for now. Like you don't have to take big, massive action. You can take baby steps to set yourself up for success. You can get into, like, if you've never exercised in the morning, for example, get into the habit of like getting up 5 or 10 minutes earlier. It really doesn't have to be much. And like you said, Gina, have a little stretch or take a few deep breaths, or do a very gentle yoga flow or whatever is your thing. Like, I don't know, 10 push-ups, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but start small, like, because if you're gonna start with too much right now, it's just gonna get too overwhelming. Mm,
Yes, because you
so
have to
yeah,
think
that
about, yeah, because we have to think about all those times that we did make New Year's resolutions, and did we ever stick to them? No, because we set such like a high expectation for
it's like
ourselves.
exactly. And then we feel like failures. Then we actually start
Mhm.
the newer year like, oh my God, look, I just got this sort of a chance of a fresh start and I already blew it. I'm such a loser. I'm like, it's really not like, don't do that to yourself. You really don't have to. Like, don't push yourself into a situation that's only gonna make yourself feel worse about yourself. Like that's not kind. And you really don't have to do that. Like
Right. And I was just looking at resolutions, should be restolution. Rest. Take
No,
some
I mean
time to
there,
rest.
yeah, there really is a good time for resolutions like that, but that comes in spring.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's when really, and we can, again, if you just tune in, you can feel it happening because, right, nature starts waking up all around you. It's all this bustling feeling, and the bees come out and it's all buzzing, and you actually feel that buzzing inside yourself. It's
Mhm.
like this energy is building up and you don't really know what to do with it, but like, and you're so happy, and you know, now if you've done your winter work, your inner stuff, you're going to know what to channel that energy into, because what we all struggle with in the winter is this lack of energy, because we're meant to be resting, and we can set these intentions as to what we want to do, but we're going to lack the energy to do it. However, this energy will come with spring, and if we have very clear guidelines as to what we want to move towards, we're going to be able to use all that beautiful energy to go exactly where we want to go. And
Mhm.
that's super powerful. Like, people underestimate how powerful setting a direction is. But that's like getting into your car without setting the GPS and having no idea where you're going. Then you're using all that energy just driving around, but you're never gonna find your goal if you forgot to set your GPS. And so yeah, winter is GPS setting time, if you will.
Yeah, what would we do without our GPS? Thinking about it, we had to use those maps, the old school maps back in the day, highlight it. Like, I don't know how that works. The driving, and you would have to like pull over and then look at that. Oh, thank goodness for GPS. And I wanted to talk to you about how, well, so you advocate for seasonal local foods. How does eating seasonally
Yes.
benefit our health? And what are your top food recommendations for the season?
Okay, that really depends on where you currently are. Because one thing is eating seasonally, but it's actually even more important to eat locally, right? Because I had this interesting conversation the other day. Um, Everything in our local environment actually supports us, in a sense that we are very much connected. Like I said, we're connected with the earth, we're connected with the cycles, but we're connected with our local environment, with the environment that we're currently in. Because we also adapt very quickly. Like, if you're going to travel to a completely different environment, you're going to see how for the first few days you're going to feel a little off, and then you're going to start adapting to that. I'm saying that because I just came from a completely different place where it was like 30 degrees more than it is right here now. So yeah, but your local seasonal food, whatever the earth is giving you right now, is what's the best food choice for you right now. Because what actually also happens, and we haven't touched on that so much when I said the light bulbs and the clocks and all, what we do with all these artificial lights is we messed up our circadian rhythms. So this natural rhythm of rest and wakefulness that we all have. And that can actually happen with food as well, because food absorbs light. It also absorbs the nutrients of the environment that it grows in, and those are actually the nutrients that you need. But it also absorbs the light. And so if now you're going to go to the supermarket and you're going to get a banana from Brazil,
Mhm.
like that banana carries the wrong kind of information for your body. It actually, because in the end, everything is information. Everything that we put into our bodies, be it physical or non-physical, contains information for our body. And so when you bring in that banana that
Brazilian banana.
ripened on the tropical sun, under the tropical sun in the middle of winter, it's going to be like, ooh, something's off here, right? Maybe I should be, now the sun is shining. Like, how's that possible if I'm in the middle of my and it actually messes up your circadian rhythm as well. That's why yes, definitely seasonal food and your local food. So it depends on where you're at right now, but that's mostly going to be some starchy vegetables like potatoes. It's going to be some very like sort of heavier leafy greens like cabbage and radicchios and all those things that are cold resistant. And whatever foods, because again, we don't have to, like, you don't have to go about it that rationally. You don't really need a list for me. Just think back, like if this was 100 years ago, what did your ancestors eat? Like whatever they could preserve for the winter, right? And whatever was still left in the winter. So like I said, outdoors, there's not much right now. Um, so yeah, it's actually time for heavier foods. They preserved whatever meat they could to eat that, to use that, and like warm, hearty meals that really fill you up, that warm you up, and that burn slowly in your body. So bringing you this consistent energy, not hyping you up and causing like sugar spikes and then dropping you down.
Mhm.
So maybe like stews and stuff like that. The things you actually, again, you actually feel like eating that in the winter. Like you're not gonna go for a like a fresh salad and some watermelon right now. It just doesn't, you know.
It doesn't feel right.
No.
Pineapple. Who asked me if I wanted a pineapple the other day? I think it was my mom. Yeah. I'm like, pineapple doesn't sound good right now. But a nice warm cup of soup sounded great. Not a pineapple. So I totally get what you're saying. And same thing goes with like local honey. They always say, "Oh, make sure you get your honey locally," and especially if you have allergies. My son has
Yes.
allergies, and so we make sure we have our local honey, and it helps tremendously. I love honey. It's like my sugar. It's like my sweets.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that actually my partner's best friend is a beekeeper. So we
Oh,
get all the honey from
wow.
him. And it's like whenever we go there, it's like the way he talks about his bees, it's as if they were his puppies, you know? And he
Oh,
treats them like he wouldn't go on vacation during the summer because he's like, no, my bees need me right now. So beautiful. And I swear to you, that's like the best honey I've ever tasted in my
oh,
entire life.
yes. I believe it, and that's one of my goals too, is like when we retire, my husband and I want to have a little farm, near a lake, surrounded by mountains. And it's in my vision board, and I write it places, what I want and what's going to happen. And one of my goals was to have bees because I want it to produce honey for me. And I can totally see me in there talking to the bees because I talk to my plants. I have like plants in front of me, and I'm always like, "How are my babies doing?" And it's so interesting because they're like growing even more when I'm talking to it. And just that energy, that vibration, that frequency that I'm putting out there, it's receiving it. And it's like we're one. It's like it knows, even like with pets too. They know. They're so kind and loving. It's just like everything, we're all connected, even our human consciousness, we're all connected. And
Definitely.
yeah, and so I'm excited
And
about this.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, all these beings, plants and animals and small children that are
Mhm.
not like they're unspoiled still. They have this pure connection that we've lost because our minds have overpowered it. And now it's really difficult for us to return to it. But if you observe like small children and animals together, it's like they speak the same language. Like they
Mhm.
understand each other so perfectly and they read each other's energy. And that's actually even like when we talk about it's so easy to talk about it, but it's actually all been scientifically proven as well. Like for the skeptics, even when it's like your plants grow better when you talk to them, yes, because every living being responds positively to love. Like
Mhm.
that's just the way we're wired.
Yes, it's true. And I know I have my little son. He's 8 now, but he helps me prune my plants. And he was like, "Can I help? Can I help?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Make sure you give it love, okay?" He does all the time.
Hmm.
And we have a little garden in our backyard, and the kids will go ahead and help water, and they'll see like their cucumbers grow, and I'm making fresh pickle, like I'm making homemade pickles, and
Hmm.
the tomatoes are growing. We have strawberries. They're not obviously they're not out right now because it's cold. But when the season's right, yes, it's nice to have that. I feel like it's abundance because it's always growing. You know, it's like the
It
harvesting. It's like
is.
it's wonderful to see that and feel that. So I love nature, and I feel like I'm getting more and more connected to it as I'm connecting to it. So the goal is to connect to it first, you know, like start off with the walk outside, 10 minutes, go outside at least 10 minutes a day if you're stuck at home having to work from home, or even if you're at work in your office, just step out for lunchtime and just go for a walk, and you'll see the incredible difference it makes in your mind and your just your overall well-being. It's amazing. And it's free.
Yes. And another thing that's really important, and especially this time of year, that really makes a difference in the evening, try to avoid artificial light and screens and all these LED light bulbs that are, because they have so much blue light, and then that they actually mimic the sun at noon. Okay, that's the
Mm,
only time at like when the sun is up the highest in the sky, it's when it has the most blue light. And so when you expose yourself to artificial blue light, you send your body the signal that it's time for action right now. And then people have insomnia and trouble sleeping and wonder why they can't get proper rest. And it's that like we've sent all the wrong signals to our bodies in the evening. And when you do that, your body can't produce melatonin, which is like the hormone you need if you want to sleep,
mhm.
and then you can get proper rest. So that's like two things. Yeah, definitely get outside and make sure you give yourself the opportunity to get the rest that you need, and give
Absolutely.
yourself this quiet dark time in the evening that's actually gonna help you unwind and get the rest that you need.
Totally, 100%. Now, where can our listeners go ahead and follow you, or if they want to work with you, how can they find you?
I have a website that's theuntameddreamer.com. And I do my best to keep everything up to date. There is a season guide available there that the listeners can get that's currently for the winter. Um, there's also, I've just recently created a quiz because I was like, okay, it's not like we're still so very rational. It's difficult for us to sometimes know exactly where we're at. So I built this quiz that's going to very quickly let you know which cycle you're currently in energetically, because we've been talking about the actual seasons a lot, but like I said, there are other natural cycles to keep in mind when it comes, like there's the moon cycle, there's the menstrual cycle, there's our general life cycle, and so those are all important to keep in mind as well. So if you ever feel like your energy is a little confused, you can take that quiz and it's going to tell you exactly where you are right now and how to make the most out of it. um, I'm also on Instagram at Aya_the Untamed Dreamer. And on Facebook, like if you just look for the Untamed Dreamer and you'll find me.
That's awesome. And I will have everything in the show notes. But Aya, is there anything else you would like to say or any final thoughts?
Yes, I would just like to say, trust yourself, listen to yourself, and give yourself the time and the space you need to come back in touch with yourself. And the best way to do that is through reconnecting with nature. Like you already have everything you need. You already know everything that you need to know. You just have to allow yourself to follow that knowing. And if you just do that, your life will change completely. And when you feel like you're lost, go outside.
Beautifully said. And I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Aya, for joining me on my show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you for having me.